My name is Eamon O'Kane and I am an Irish artist based in Denmark and Norway, and this is my exhibition Intimate Expansive at the Rochester Art Center. The video piece was made on a train trip to install an exhibition in the south of Germany in early 2004. And what I noticed whilst making this journey through the German countryside, through essentially the romantic sublime of the German countryside, very much sort of echoing and making me feel of people like Caspar David Friedrich and his paintings of trees and landscape in Germany. I noticed that the intimate space of the train cabin gave me this opportunity to view this expansive sublime in a very secure way. It also struck me that this sublime natural landscape was punctuated by many, many small towns and villages up in the mountains. So the natural sublime, for want of a better term, was ruptured by this evidence of humankind in the landscape. What I chose to do was to make animations of architectural drawings which sort of speed by overlay on top of these, the view out of the train window. So you're being constantly disturbed, your view is being constantly disturbed by the architectural imagery which is inspired by the towns and villages that I'm viewing. Things are constantly in flux and nothing is quite settled. One of the videos in the video room is called Mobile Museum Retrospective, and that was a piece of work that began in 2004 when I was doing a residency at the Irish Museum of Modern Art. And during that residency I felt very aware of the artists being situated in the former stables beside what was a former military hospital, colonial military hospital in Dublin, and the kind of pressure and sort of interesting dynamic of being a young Irish artist beside a national institution and making work in that sort of situation. So when I had the opportunity to do an exhibition in the process room, I created a virtual retrospective, a kind of guerrilla type virtual interaction with the museum. So there was a big Sophie Calle retrospective on at the time, and I went in and removed all of Sophie Calle's artwork virtually and replaced it with my own artwork. This was a piece of work that was dealing not only with ideas of ghosts within an institution, the amounts of exhibitions and cultural production that occurs within the architecture of a museum space, but also with, like I said, this dynamic of being a young artist beside a major institution. And in a way I was using myself as a kind of test case to discuss notions of desire and what it means to be an artist, what a young artist, and having certain ambitions and so on and so forth. The ideas around collecting of artworks and what is the canon, how does it get constructed and so on. So it was a comment in a way of, or at least the way I saw it was about kind of every artist in that sort of particular position. So what I've done since is that I've made these virtual panoramas in various museums throughout the world. So you'll see a panorama of the Guggenheim in New York. You'll see museums in Denmark and Germany. And I do the same thing of putting my artwork into these museums and constructing these virtual panoramas. Then I also play with the idea of the spectacle of the museum, whereby I've constructed museum theme parks, essentially. So there's images of the Rochester Art Center beside the Tate Modern, beside Guggenheim Bilbao, beside Frank Lloyd Wright's Guggenheim, all set in cornfield in America. So there's this kind of notion of this overproduction or over spectacularization of cultural production and display, and the museum as a spectacle. The project with the house I grew up in, my parents' house, which is also represented in this exhibition in one of the video works, which is called the 20th of April 1689. That whole project is centered around a tree, a sycamore tree that stood in my parents' garden that I used to climb as a child, and that tree was a tree that King James II dined under on the way to the Siege of Derry in 1689. And the tree essentially saved the house. So I kind of found that interesting because he burned all the houses in retreat, and having the meal under the tree meant that he stopped his soldiers from burning this particular house. That whole project also touches on a period in history which essentially is planting the seeds for the conflict in Northern Ireland. And I'm interested also in using that story, quite a simple, almost mythical fairy tale type story, which is based on fact, that story can be used as a way of questioning the paradoxes that were inherent in that political moment, and what then subsequently became a series of political iterations of that moment that then changed over time. So I think Deleuze and Guattari, they talk about the idea of Bastille Day in Difference and Repetition, I think it is. They talk about the idea of Bastille Day, and you have Bastille Day, the first celebration or commemoration of Bastille Day is one iteration of that moment, and then it's the same every year. The thing is celebrated the same. You could say the same about the 4th of July, but actually every year it subtly changes, and that repetition, the difference in repetition, means that the consequence of that is that something that was something in the 1600s becomes something completely different, even though it's the same thing in this century, for example. So I'm interested in the paradoxes growing out of that, and I think the tree gave me an opportunity to situate it in a space where I think everybody can relate to a tree, everybody can relate to that story of a childhood memory connected with a tree.